I'm well. How have you been?
Good.
Yeah, sorry about that. I totally fell asleep reading about insomnia on Reddit.
So you're curing for insomnia is reading about insomnia.
Well, I was looking to see if there was like discussion points, see if anybody had anything to say. I'm trying not to go like page by page. I'm thinking maybe like we can keep these things at an hour moving forward. Maybe that'll uh,
Hello.
help. Hello. Oh yeah, sorry about that. But sleep reading about insomnia on Reddit, waiting for 1 o'clock.
I was gonna do the same thing. Like this really makes me want to look up stuff online.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're
Well,
jumping right into it, but yeah, I had the same thought.
I mean, we can jump. It's been a while.
I guess we should. Well, I don't know if anyone else would know that, but I guess we should say welcome back for us as a husband.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, Allie's married now, right? I'm
I know.
hoping. Anyway.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a whirlwind end of the year, so I'm definitely glad we took a break. But I miss y'all.
Yeah, same. I had to say I did not read at all, which I'm like, wow, maybe this podcast is keeping me reading, which is good for me.
I have no doubt that it's keeping you reading.
I was reading before it started. I don't know why I stopped.
Yeah. Well, let's see. We finished the tower, then I read. I think I finished Holly right before that we did the tower, right? Something like that.
I
Uh,
think we were reading it when we were finishing. Yeah.
then I went to. Oh, I read Eyes of the Dragon because Flag's in that. Um, and then I read. Oh, I started reading The Wheel of Time because I watched the Amazon show, and I read them in the '80s. Um, those are 700. It's 13 books, and I'm on book one, and it's like 800 pages, and it's like 10 minutes to get through each page. So those are tough.
Wow.
Um, then I went to the passage, and I don't know, man. I kind of don't care. I don't know if I want to go back to it.
It's well, we'll have to talk about that later. I'm like, I know it's hard to get through, but I love the series. Once you get past a certain point,
Yeah, I guess I get. Well, I'm not gonna. Yeah, no spoilers. So I think I have to get to that point, and I'm not there yet.
Mm. Isn't that
Uh,
only 3 books though?
yeah, but the first book is very slow in the beginning, and that's the problem. Like once he's still in the first book that he's not cannot get past.
Got it. Yeah. I have at least 2 of the books. I just haven't read them yet.
yeah, he spends a lot of time investing you in these characters, and then yanks them away. Like okay, that sucks.
Yeah, that is a well, never mind. We don't have to talk about that. I'm like, that's a good point, but I do think it's because they stay in the memory of characters later on.
Yeah. Anyway. So I've been reading. So and then I read Insomnia, and then it was almost like glad to be back. Like, oh, Stephen King book. All right, now I'm back on familiar ground. I read like fucking the first 4 chapters in like 3 days.
It's like riding a bike trail that you know very well.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, this is why I like reading because of this guy. And now I remember what we're doing here. Um, so we've had a little time, or I guess Al, you've had a little time to absorb any tower thoughts.
Uh,
Anything
I
What do you
different?
miss
think in the
Roland.
end? Wow,
No,
Roland of all people.
that definitely does
I
happen.
didn't think I would, but especially reading well, and I guess this is kind of jumping into insomnia, but reading and hearing the Crimson King's name, I was like, Roland has to be here somewhere.
Uh, you know what Reddit said was that in Insomnia is the first book where they mention him by name.
The Crimson King.
Yes, I didn't know that.
It wouldn't surprise me because he's not mentioned by name in the Dark Tower for a while, like book 4 or something, right?
Yeah, I don't think until after he gets hit. Maybe book 5.
Yeah.
He's got to be mentioned
Well,
before
no,
that,
no,
right?
no. He's in Wizard and Glass because Farce. Well, is he? I thought they said he was working. I don't remember now. Whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, who's
I
the
think he is mentioned in Wizard and Glass because they talk about how, yeah, Farson is working for the Crimson King.
That's what I
Or
thought.
maybe
Yeah.
we just alluded to that. Shit, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm like, is that what happened, or is that what I remember happening?
Well, and I
um
know I was a little influenced because you guys kept mentioning the Crimson King, so I was like, everything's gonna point to him.
I mean, it kind of does. I didn't realize how much he's not mentioned until like the end.
I mean, it makes sense because he doesn't even feel like the real villain at the end. Like,
He's not. I just have one question. Is Walter Martin?
At the end, yes. It tells you yes.
we're gonna go with yes.
In Robin's thing, he is, I think. But and that's one of my Christmas presents was the graphic novels. There's two omnibuses, however the hell you pluralize that word. Um, for so I'm reading the first one, and it basically starts with Roland walking in on Martin and his mom, and then he goes to court and he does the trial, and so like right now he's about to go west and to go to Hambry and Magus and all that. So it's kind of it's like the bridge for stuff that's not in the books. And the Battle of Jericho Hill is coming up, so I'm very excited to read that.
Cool.
That is pretty cool because it's like, did Stephen King help with that story, like this plot, or?
I'll have to look. I think I read Sleeping Beauties. There was two graphic novels for that, and if I hadn't of read the book and known what I did, I don't think it works by itself. It was just it didn't really explain what was happening. It just kind of said this is that, now moving on. Now this is this, now moving on. It just kind of like brushed past everything. And, by the end you're like, what the like I don't even really know what the hell just happened. So
were there a lot of action shots? Because that's all that really matters, right?
There's action in the more than book than I guess there's no time to build these characters. You're just like, oh, here's this guy and this is who he is, and now he's going to do this, and you don't care because you barely know who these people are without the. It's just like jumbled and thrown together. It didn't feel coherent. But that was Robin Firth was the consultant on Sleeping Beauties. I don't know if the same is true for the graphic novels. I would have to imagine they consulted him heavily.
Well,
if they're writing about Jericho Hill, my God.
That's what I was about to say. If they're filling in gaps like of the Dark Tower plot,
yeah, I feel like he would have to be involved in that.
I mean, maybe he's just taking a bath in his money and saying, "Do what you want."
Well, I mean, that's at the very least, I'm sure it has his approval.
Yeah, I'm sure. So it was neat. I'm excited to see what's going on in Jericho Hill. We all know there's kind of a big mystery there, right? How did everybody die? And like Roland responsible?
Wasn't that where he lost the horn? Or no?
Oh, yes. To finally talk about the motherfucking horn. Thank you.
I know. The amount of times that is alluded to throughout the series is insane. And you don't notice it the first time because you don't know to look for it, but like, it's crazy. And we were like, we can't talk about it. We can't mention it.
There's the horn. They mentioned the horn again. Oh my God, the horn. Yeah. I don't even know how far we'll get to Insomnia. This might just be a fucking Dark Tower recap, but Insomnia is doing it too. Like from page 1, if you know the shit is right there in your face.
Well, you kind of give me a heads up of things to look out for, but even with my own Stephen King literary analysis skills, I could definitely pick up on after that. I was like, oh, that's important. That's important. That's important. Like, like you can tell.
All right, let's good. Let's get to I got Robin's book in my hand, and there's so many discussion questions, but I don't know if I want to do all that for Dark Tower stuff.
I also love that we're back in Derry. I kind of forgot that part of it, so it's really cool to be
Yeah.
back.
Reddit was saying how it was kind of a tribute and maybe a spiritual sequel to it. And like, oh, I never. And it's 8 years. It's set 8 years after. I don't know. Derry gets destroyed somehow.
When the water tower falls.
Yeah, when the whole town got flooded out and sent out into the Penobscot or whatever they went.
Yeah, and I did have to go and look when Insomnia was written, and I was like, okay, so they are talking about the same like huge storm that collapsed at the end of it.
Oh wow, I didn't even pick up on that. Yeah, that's a good catch.
Wait,
So I'm like
did I
tying.
talk about that in Insomnia already?
Yeah,
Oh, I missed that. Or
It-
maybe I didn't.
it was like after the fight that Ralph had with the trucker guy, and the very main accented man gave Ralph a ride back to his house, and he was like, "Oh, hopefully this isn't as bad as when the canal caved in."
Oh
Or whatever.
yeah,
Oh.
great catch. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of set in the perfect spot on the like timeline. It's after it and before the tower kicks in, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Because so that would be after the Wastelands, I think. What's the Wastelands? 90. Wait a minute.
After
No,
before Wizard and Glass, maybe.
after Wizard and Glass, maybe. What year was Wizard and Glass? 94 or 90? No, Wizard and Glass 97.
Uh,
96?
so in my book under novels, Wastelands is the last book about the tower.
I'm gonna Google it. Hold
I have it right here. I'm looking for.
So we're asking when was Wizard and Glass published?
When were they both published?
Wizard and Glass is 97.
Okay, that's what I thought. When's Insomnia? 96 or 97?
94.
I think it's 96. 94.
Yeah, when I looked up the publishing in the book, it said 94, but I'm gonna Google it. Yeah, 94.
Okay.
I had to look up the year when they were talking about all the domestic violence stuff because I'm like, this is way too late in the millennial for this conversation to be happening.
Oh yeah, I forgot about all the.
Yeah,
that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
The whole what happens between a man and his wife is their issue alone, and I'm like, no, dear God, no.
I mean,
well,
that's.
The law, we've said this before on this podcast, but the law was literally passed that year. I'm pretty sure. I think it was 94.
I mean, we know he doesn't feel that way, obviously, but that's the culture that you're fighting, right? There's years of that.
I understand that.
Kind of attitude,
Yeah.
What happens between a man and a wife is between a man and his wife. It's like, well, okay, to point.
I think
not when she's staggering down the street, fucking bleeding with a baby in her arms. I think you've left that at that point.
Well, I think. Sorry, go ahead, Ali.
No, I was just agreeing. Like when and I know this is not always the case, but like if the man is the one that's in control in the household and he's physically like hurting or restraining the woman, literally, how can you escape from that?
Right. Well, don't marry him, obviously. It's
your
fault.
Should have known better.
Now it's your problem.
Yeah, I guess.
Right. Well, that was the thing, and there was no divorce, until I guess in the last 100 years. So if you married an asshole to beat you every day, then sorry about your luck. Welcome to the rest of your life.
Well, that was what I was gonna say. Is that like I forget sometimes that as a society we have made so many progressive changes for the better in terms of rights and things like that. That to think that like 94 we were still dealing with problems like this. It feels like it should have been 100 years ago, not 30 years ago. I'm like, how old am I? I forgot.
We're still dealing with it now, even though it's. Well, I know what you mean because of the law,
but right,
that is a little amazing that was passed that way. Okay, well, we dove into that real quick. It didn't.
I also completely forgot about the whole women's
Wait a
rights.
minute. when did the other one come out? Wastelands.
Oh, hold on.
Before you get into that, I think it's after Wastelands and before. I don't know if it's 94. It might be before Wastelands.
No, I think
Oh no,
Wastelands was
Wastelands is
out.
91, right?
91.
Okay. Yeah, so it perfectly sits there. It's almost like
That's like halfway in between.
Yeah. Well, and
right,
it was published in was it late 80s or early 90s?
86.
86.
That I know.
Okay.
Oh wow, I thought it was early 90s. Yeah, but no, that was when the movie came out. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it
the movie was
really is,
1990. Yeah.
it really does feel like an homage both to it and the start of the tower.
It kind of is both, right? And that's when you take the tour, Insomnia features prominently because it's one of the only two books in Derry, right? I think it's just them too. Or Pet Cemetery, I guess counts. At least the cemetery part.
Pet Cemetery's in Ludlow, right?
Yeah, sounds right. Yes.
Because that was mentioned briefly in Insomnia, and I was like, why do I know that name? You just reminded me.
Wasn't part of Tommyknockers in Derry?
I don't remember.
They're in Haven. I don't know how far that is theoretically or mythologically from Derry. It wasn't far drivable, I think, because I think Derry's mentioned in Tommyknockers, but I don't think they may have went there for something, but
Got it. Okay.
They were kind of isolated up there by necessity because of what was going on.
Yeah.
Stranger
Yeah, I
Things
just
2.
couldn't remember. It's been a minute since I've read it.
We need to read that. Everybody hates that book. Everybody hates this book too.
It's just weird.
Like the disappointing ending, and well, I'm not gonna get all that, but
for me, it's a theme. I don't like dream. Oh my god, I almost said dream knockers, Dreamcatcher, and I don't like Tommyknockers, and I wonder if it's just I don't like him and the way he writes aliens. Not to spoil anything, but
right? What aliens? What are you talking about? No alien.
I don't like his ending of Under the Dome either, but that's just because it's a bad ending. But maybe not. There's my theory.
Would you stop giving away alien books?
Well, okay. These people should know already. Oh, I guess maybe. All right, forget. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, a lot of the books that we're reading are older, so it's if it's spoilers, that's on people who are listening.
Well, I was thinking that too, but I think maybe he means for you as well.
Oh, well, fair, but
yeah, I
I
mean,
was still surprised by the tower, even though y'all let some things slip.
Yeah, so how much did we let slip? How bad were we with that?
I don't even know.
I think prepping her for the Crimson King for so long, it's not really a bad spoiler. It's just like I don't know when he actually is there or not. He's just always there.
Yeah, I didn't do it on purpose that way. It just seems like he should have been in there before he was.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I think there was mentions of like Keystone Earth before I really knew that there were other worlds than these.
Oh, I can finally call it Keystone Earth too, man. I held that one for a long time. We're like, the Middle Earth, the good one, the one that only goes forward.
Like, yeah, the one we live on.
Yeah, the one that exists in the real world. All right, so we're gonna be all over the tower. So it's yeah, I miss Jake still. Roland, I don't know. Roland's Roland. he's I don't know. He's just kind of always around. I feel like.
I understand the missing his presence though, because even though he's an asshole, he's always got it under control. There's always a sense of security.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're with him, you're like, but we got a good shot of working it out. If it's not going to work out, we got a much better chance. Like there's a calming effect.
It's like having a supercomputer weapon. Like he knows how to do everything the best. Well, except for tell jokes, apparently.
Except for keeping people alive. That is a little bit of an issue.
Good point.
Well,
So
I
All
don't think that
casualties.
all of that is his fault, though. Jake, yes, but Eddie wasn't.
well, his fault or not, didn't change what happens.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you could say that they chose to go with him, but I don't really know that they did.
Yeah.
he made a good point to prove that they were going with or without him. He shoved that down our throats. Like
That
we're going, whether you like it or not.
Eddie and Susanna.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Eddie especially. I remember several times where he was like Eddie was going whether Roland died tomorrow. Susanna too.
Yeah,
Jake, I don't know. Jake was just kind of along for the ride, doing what the adults told him to do.
even
No,
going.
sorry.
I was just gonna. No, you can go ahead.
I think Jake, especially once they got to oh God, what was that town's name? Where they met Andy.
Caliber.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, Andy. Who is Andy?
All other functions.
Messenger robot? Any other function?
Yeah.
Never forget it. Never forget those other functions.
But yes, to kill.
Right?
But yeah, once they got to the Cala, I think Jake was all in, regardless of whether Roland was gonna be there or not.
Well, he did choose to go back through the fucking monster-eating doorhouse to go hang out with them. So
Again,
I guess he was all in at that point, right?
Yeah.
Susanna was always the wishy-washy one to me.
I'll see. Now you're getting it.
That's why I still don't know if you can say choose, because it's like Jake, quote unquote, chose to go through the door, but he was also losing his mind. Like he wanted anything that would bring any kind of sanity.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Jake's the one that got the raw deal. Like, Eddie was kind of my favorite, but Jake's the one that I have the most empathy for, I guess. Like, oh man,
he
there's one
just
thing
never had
after another. That kid can't catch a break.
right.
And I was surprised how quickly I jumped on the fuck Susanna train.
Well, I tried not to influence, but I wasn't very good at that. She is, she's she's in the stand category, kind of the way I say it.
Kinda, yeah.
She was like, I'm not. Matter of fact, yeah, because she was like, I'm all in. I'm not leaving no matter what. And then like the next day, she's like, yeah, I'm out of here. Fuck this.
I mean, at least that's the only realistic reaction.
Well, true. The old, yeah, Reddit was saying something about, I gotta stop calling them out like that. Crap. Forgot. How about the deep nose being slightly crazy? I don't know if there's any relation there.
Well, didn't they kind of address that in the at the end of the tower, didn't they?
Yeah,
Not the crazy part, but
that there
that
were other.
there is a relation.
Yeah.
Did they talk about Ed? You
I
mean
think
in
so.
the story or in the note? I don't remember.
In oh God, I think the last book of the tower, or second to last, when they're in New York, and they're literally telling him, "Hey, here's this book, Insomnia. It mentions our uncle or something,
Right.
and has all of this information that you probably need to finish your quest." And he doesn't read it.
Yeah.
I forgot about that because he's absolutely right about that. It would have told him a lot of information.
He was like, yeah, why did he do that? I don't. Roland's like, no, I don't read shit. Fuck that.
Can I audiobook it?
I mean, would it have helped him? I probably not.
Well, he would have known. I guess it didn't matter. He won anyway, and the problem was the horn. So
I
yeah.
mean, win? I don't know that I'd say that. he opened the door and shouted all the damn names at the tower that he wanted to.
Well, I meant he beat the Crimson King. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Except for his
Eyes.
eyeballs and
The floating eyeballs.
I just picture like Looney Tunes where they like disappear and there's just like a duck bill and a pair of eyes floating there. All right. So, what do we think about Ralph?
I have to say, I read this book when I was young. I think it was one of the first that I read, and I reread it like 4 or 5 years ago whenever I started rereading all the Stephen King, and there's still so much of this I remember. Like there are sentences I remember word for word. It kind of scares me, and I'm like, I think I have like a fear of having insomnia because of this book.
I don't know. Being tired is one of the worst things in the fucking world. Like you can't think straight and your brain doesn't work, and it feels like I don't know, like you're super drunk. Like the synapses aren't firing the way you're supposed to, and when you get
You
all
feel like
tired,
you're like wading through, like the air's heavy, like everything feels heavy.
Yeah.
But the difference is, like, I've been in that state of exhaustion many, many times, but I've never been that tired and not able to sleep. And that's what sticks with me. I'm like, this man, I can't. It's like painful.
that's
Yeah.
true. I mean, when I'm that tired, I just pass the fuck out at some point. It's like
Well, and I
Nightmare
think
on Elm Street.
like your body forces you to sleep at some point. Like if you really haven't slept for that long, it just shuts down.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know that it's necessarily restful and restorative sleep at that point, but you still have to sleep to be able to function as a person. Like I remember, I think I've seen a Mythbusters episode where they were trying to prove like driving while tired is worse than driving while drunk.
Oh
Was it?
yeah.
I'm sure it was, wasn't it? What if you're tired and drunk? Because you're tired from being drunk.
Yeah, that would probably be the worst combination. But like if it's
Don't drive
just,
and drink and drive.
yes,
You
that is
might hit a
not
bump
me
and spill your
saying
drink.
drive drunk.
If you're
Not
gonna do it, make
advocating
sure
that.
you're wide awake.
You can. Yeah.
They did a episode where they made a boat out of duct tape and took it out on the ocean and rode around, and it was like, wow, that was impressive. I don't know if I have the balls to do that.
I mean,
I would
like you have people watching you. You're not gonna drown.
Well, true, but yeah.
So
It's like
I was just
Survivor. I can't see that camera. I didn't know
gonna
that. They're sitting there with like a big spread and the sandwiches and shit, and right off camera on Survivor.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, because like people have been caught cheating before, where they just like steal the food from the cat or from the producer.
I did not know that. That's funny. Fuck this raw.
But I was gonna say too, going back to being tired, I have been like that's why this is so weird and so scary. And I'm sure that there are people who deal with this all the time, but like I have my body has shut down to the point where I don't even remember falling asleep, and I was asleep for like 2 or 3 hours, and I thought I had shut my eyes for a minute. So it's like your body will definitely take care of that for you.
yeah.
For me, at least.
I mean, that just happened to me before the podcast. I was sitting there reading on my tablet, and then it was fucking. You were calling me 20 minutes later, like, "Whoa, what the fuck happened?" That was like It was like quarter of the last I remember. Like, whoa. Yeah. So your body's like, no, enough's enough. When your body's had it, there's not much you can do.
He is too good at describing these intense physical conditions that are easily relatable, like the freezing cold and now the insomnia. And I'm like, stop getting in my head.
It always goes back to the cold. It's always about the cold. All these years later, it's still about the cold. It's like the benchmark.
It is. If I'm cold, I think about Susanna and Roland, and I'm like, am I that cold?
Yes. You can't not. But am I colder than they were? Could I survive this for a couple days with no coat and no fire?
If I had no coat right now, yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not that cold. No, but he's right. Like that, and I mean, it's into the cold, but there is nothing worse than being that cold and not being able to get comfortable, but not like dying.
Right.
Yeah.
And this again, there's nothing worse than being. Well, maybe you're cold and tired and you can't sleep. There's nothing worse than being like tired like that. I don't even know that. I like the cold. I can relate to because we've all been like cold like that, but being that tired and not being able to sleep, I don't. The only thing I can relate that to is, like being on a stimulant or something that's keeping you up, but then you're not necessarily tired at that point. You're tired when you come off it.
Right. Yeah. The only thing I can think of is like I never used to think about it, but my senior year in high school, I started becoming conscious of like how many hours of sleep I was getting. And then it would be like, oh no, I have to get up in 6 hours and I don't feel tired at all. And then it'd be like, that thing of like, oh no, I have to get up in 5 hours. Like, oh no. I'm like, but ever since I, ever since I started smoking, I don't have that problem at all. So
I used to do the opposite. Because we were, like say early 20s, we would be drinking every night. So it would be like, shit, I got to work at 11. And, it's 2 in the morning. You're like, oh, man, I still got 9 hours of good sleep. Shit, I'm good to go. And then by the time you made it to bed, it would be like, I still got 4 hours. I'm good to go. And then you wake up, you're like, oh, that was not a good idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've never done this early waking thing. I mean, I kind of do that now, but I just get up early because of my job, I think. So.
Yeah, and imagine the added stress too. Like you're already tired, you can't sleep, and you're more stressed out every day because you're just waking up early.
Yeah,
No matter what. The one day he didn't go to sleep at all because he tried to stay up until he was too tired, and then he stayed up the whole fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
Then everybody was like, "Oh, you want to play games, do you, smart ass?"
Yeah, I read that section. I was like, oh, I would not be okay.
I have to say
it drives me insane that he just sits there and stares at nothing for hours. I'm like, can you do something, please? Like,
yeah, like that gift that I sent, just like staring at the fucking screen.
I imagine that's what he's like. It's sitting in that chair all morning, staring outside the window. I'm like, oh my god,
Now there's something to be said for that, as long as there's shit going on outside in the window, and there's starting to be a little bit going on.
The only thing so far is Rosalie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rosalie and
like the Paperboy, maybe.
Yeah, I think those two are related, though, aren't they? Isn't Rosalie? No, yeah, Rosalie and the Paperboy. They're not related. But Rosalie had something to do with newspapers for some reason. Just because it was a dog. But that was like when I go to work in the morning, or when I work from home, like we got that big bay window here. So I open that, and like it's not quite daylight yet. And I'll sit there and turn the computer on and just like, stare out the window while I do some like stupid little administrative stuff before like the world wakes up. Like that's kind of my favorite time of the day. Yeah, I don't know what that was. Favorite.
It's
my little southern accent there. So I get that part, like just sitting there like staring at. Like I would have to have a newspaper or a book or something. I couldn't just like.
I was just gonna say, you're not just doing nothing. And second, even if you were, it's because you are waking up. You are, you're meditating before starting your day. Ralph has hours to do nothing. He doesn't need to sit there doing more nothing.
Ralph's fucking retired. He's got nothing to get ready for. Yeah.
It drives me insane. I'm like, get a book or turn on your TV, like pay for the cable, whatever you need to do.
Or like start cleaning something or garden early.
Are you kidding? My house would be immaculate if I couldn't sleep like this.
Oh yeah.
Because you look for stuff to do. You try to wear yourself out.
Like it almost feels like he's in solitary confinement.
Kinda.
Yeah. Right. All he gets is a Bible and a loaf of bread. All right. That is the end of the podcast. Everybody say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.